Okay, good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak. Now, there's a conversation going on in studio. I'll be letting you in on that later on. But let me introduce the panelists here in studio. Fred Okango is the Political Affairs Secretary from KANU. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Silvana Susoro, should I say the controversial Silvana Susoro, is the Majority Whip at the National Assembly. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
And you have Robert Mbui, the Deputy Minority Leader at the National Assembly. Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
We're still expecting the arrival of the Deputy Speaker, that is Gladys Boss. As soon as she's here, she'll be joining the conversation. But in the meantime, we're waking up to two major stories. The first one on the Daily Nation is the highways of death, giving details of some of the black spots across the 8 regions as you knew them, and highlighting some of the areas, saying that 2,318 people have died since the start of the year until 5th of July, which is sometime last week. And so much more. Then Kalonzo is the man. Wiper MPs tell Raila. They are quoting the Senator of Makueni, Dan Manzo. And also on the front page of the Standard, you see no place for small tribes in public service. A report by MPs shows skewed composition of civil servants. And they are saying that some communities could get up to 40% representation in positions. Then saying that the gender role is also foreign in the civil service. And then another interesting story of the shock of 3,000 schools without head teachers, and so much more that you'll find inside the papers. And of course, this morning, we're also expecting that the matter of the Finance Act will be back in court. Remember that Justice Mugure Thande extended the orders stopping the implementation of the Finance Act up to today, to which point that that matter is expected to be mentioned. There could be a bit of directions in as far as the a court case that was taken there by Okiya Mtata, the contempt suit, but also continuation of that case against the Finance Act, saying that it contravenes some of the provisions of how law is made, saying some of the proposals or some of the clauses are touching on matters devolution, and the bill was not taken to the Senate, and so much more that is developing. We'll be sure to bring you the latest as soon as that develops. But here in studio, it is the first day after a chaotic weekend that we saw in the country. Different major towns in the country, should I say violence that was also witnessed between the police and protesters, the Saba Saba day that was. And let me begin with you, Honorable Robert Mbui, your account of what transpired on that day, because I saw your images in Kathiani with your leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka. Looked a bit peaceful, but not so across other major places, including Nairobi, Migori, and others. What was this, and did you achieve the goal that was intended for that particular day?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Sam, on that matter of our Saba Saba rallies, first and foremost, this is a constitutional provision. We are allowed to have peaceful demonstrations. In fact, the Constitution says as long as you're unarmed and you're peaceful, then you can be able to carry out your demonstrations. We set out to do demos the whole country. Kathiani was just one of the places. And I want to thank the police because they didn't bother with they didn't interfere with our peaceful demonstration. We walked around the town and met the people and expressed ourselves, and the people expressed themselves. The Mamambogas complained about the lies that they were told by this regime. The bodabodas complained about the lies. They also complained about the high cost of living. And it was extremely peaceful. But across the country, Sam, what I saw was, unfortunately, that excessive use of force by the police. You saw a situation where, in fact, I understand it was a lady that was of unsound mind, who was attacked by the police completely unprovoked. And they've done that, including over the weekend at the Central Police Station, when they went to attack the former Chief Justice. I mean, as long as you're not armed, and as long as you're not violent, you're supposed to be allowed to peacefully picket. Now, I've been asking myself, the former Chief Justice Mutunga, what weapon was he carrying? Unless the bread and the scones and the milk he bought for those people that were arrested unfairly and detained without any proper charges, unless that is what they are calling weapons. So I think the biggest problem we are facing now is a police service that he's being misused by some political leaders to unfortunately meet violence on our people. But I'm happy that the none other than the CS for Interior has realized that they are going on the wrong trajectory and has actually issued a statement telling the police to now stop violence against peaceful demonstrators. If the police are peaceful, the demonstrations will be peaceful. In fact, no citizen goes to those rallies with tear gas. And no citizen goes with any weapons. And let me tell you, Sam, the only weapon you will see being used by citizens is only stones. And let me tell you, stones, we don't carry them. Stones are all over the place. And they become the only way by which one can defend themselves when the police start perpetuating violence against innocent citizens. So I think Kenyans have been peaceful, and if police can keep away from our demonstrations, we will be able to comfortably do our picketing and send a message home, because we must send this regime and get this regime out of office.
What does that even mean, getting the regime?
Kenyans are tired, and you know, Sam, because this is why we are here today. We need to tell Kenyans that enough is enough. Sam, you know, the Constitution, Article 1, is very, very clear that all sovereign power is vested in the people of Kenya. Now, if the people of Kenya are dissatisfied, then they also have the right to exercise their sovereign power. And that is what we are encouraging them to do, because if the regime has failed to listen to their basic cries and failed completely to satisfy their needs and to work with them in a manner in which they had promised, then citizens have a right to say enough is enough, and we want to find an alternative means of running our affairs. Because you know, the power that the executive wields, the power that the legislature wields, that is power that is donated by the people. And if the people are not getting the services they want, they have every right to take back that power. That is why that is the very, very first clause in this Constitution of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay, all right. Honorable Soro, the chaos, I mean, this time also in Kisii County, but also that region has been quite heated lately. Sometimes it has been because of your supporters versus the supporters of the governor. But what is your take about what transpired on Friday, but also being specific to Kisii?
Let me start from where Honorable Mbui stopped, that they have to get this regime out of power. I mean, really, I don't know whether that is a dream or it's something in reality. They've been issuing so many demands and threats and ultimatums all through since September. In as much as I agree that we may be having a tough situation in Kenya as at now in terms of the cost of living and such, but that is not limited to this country alone. It's worldwide, number one. Number two, initially, the issue Honorable Mbiwi's side had was about the Finance Act that was signed by His Excellency the President and, of course, became an act. But as you well put it, you know, the operations and the commencement of that very act is in stay right now as per the court's directive. So exactly what are they protesting against? Because, I mean, really, does it mean that they do not trust the courts? What is the protest about? And how do they believe these very people that had the entire system with them and they couldn't manage to beat William Ruto when he was nothing, when he had no power completely, when they had actually, you know, made him blame and he couldn't even move. But they are now telling you that they are able to marshal 10 million signatures. I mean, really, people who couldn't get 50% plus one vote, where are they going to get the 10 million signatures from? But be that as it may, the protests, I want to agree with CS Kindiki and Honorable Mbui now, to some extent, as far as the protest and picketing is concerned under Article 37. It's within the right of every citizen to get out of the streets for whatever reason, if they agitated against the public office or anything, and picket. The only problem we have at times is that there are genuine people who come out to protest, and that I agree with them. There are very genuine people who come out, of course, for matters, justice and such. But there are also people who take advantage of that. And even as we blame the police, we also need to ask ourselves. In Kisii in particular, we saw young men burning and, burning some... Actually, the young men went close to the bank and they wanted to loot the bank. They started banning the banner that is outside the bank, threatening the customers inside the bank and such. How do you expect the police to deal with that? We really sometimes we put the police in a very awkward situation. We saw the young men looting, the vibandas, moving around the markets and telling people, close your vibanda, we must picket, and taking, taking their stock and, damaging property across, banning vehicles, and that happened in Kisii. You see, sometimes, even as we say picketing is a right, why can't we just get to the highway or some road and take a walk and make our message known in our masses than getting in the streets? Your right stops where my right starts from. That you are telling me not to move, to use my road, to use the road that I pay taxes on in Kisii town because you are picketing. I mean, really, how do you expect the police to do? To look at you and give you biscuits? That is the challenge that we're having. And that is what happened in Kisii. It turned out to be so chaotic, throwing stones at bypassers, throwing stones at motorcyclists, throwing stones at buildings. We have a lot of people that have lost businesses in Kisii. And I'm talking in Kisii in particular because that is where I closely watched. And chanting songs, holding caskets, moving around with caskets with the image of His Excellency, the President of Kenya, in the name of picketing. What message are you passing? Is that really a right to? So your right is to rest in peace, the President of Kenya, and then that is your right, and you should be led to move around Kisii town and say, this is a coffin, and this is the President that is inside there. Is that your right? Doesn't he have a right himself? So those are the things that we also need to ask ourselves. Picketing is one's right, but we are not supposed to, let's not provoke the police. Some were even you saw videos of them chasing after the police, where the police decided, okay, let's hold. They started throwing stones at them and tear gas back at them because they were throwing stones. What do you expect police to do? Policemen are human beings. Even as we want to appear that our rights are more than the policemen, we also need to realize that they also hold, they are family men, they are fathers, they have relatives. Those are people. Without uniforms, they are human beings. So sometimes, in as much as I don't support violence, because again, within such scenarios, we've lost 6 people, and it's quite unfortunate. I don't know whether such protests have yielded any fruits, whether through such protests they've been able to collect signatures. In Kisii, when people were running around, I didn't see them signing any booklet. Okay. So I don't know what really the motivation was, and we've lost revenue, even as a county. How does it help us?
Okay, all right. And there are several images that we'll be looking at shortly about what really transpired. But Fred, the strategy this time looked different. Instead of just one central movement into the city, people were sent to different regions, or they sent themselves to different regions. What was that strategy, but also to what end?
Thank you, Sam. First of all, allow me to say that it's very unfortunate that on the Saba Saba day, when the people of Kenya were celebrating the gains they have made through the struggles of the previous Saba Saba protests, we had to lose 6 Kenyans as a result of confrontation with the police. In fact, some of the deaths, the doctors are saying that, this was from the news yesterday, that they had bullet wounds that probably were fired from a gun. It's unfortunate that we sympathize. And the last Saba Saba on 7th, in our view, was one of the most successful, peaceful demonstrations that we have ever had as a country, not as a party coalition, Azimio, that is. Kadhiani, from Kadhiani to Nyandarua, or rather to Kirinyaga, Turkana, Homa Bay, Kisii, Migori, Nairobi, Mombasa. And you saw the peaceful demos in Mombasa where the police were actually speaking to the picketers and escorting them. And there's no one who was provoked. No one provoked the other. It was peaceful. Now, the strategy was very simple. We were launching the start of delegitimization of Kenya Kwanza regime, when the people came together and said, enough is enough, and this time, the Kenya Kwanza regime, having occasioned the punitive taxes, oppressive taxes, having called themselves and referred themselves as, what they call shareholders company. In our view, the people said that this is a republic, it's not a shareholders, and therefore they are to come out and to use that celebration to exercise their sovereign power and participate in a peaceful demonstration. The reason why the leaders were in different regions was to launch the exercise of signature collection pursuant to Article 1 that require them, that because the members that represent them in their view have failed, Osoro and team, they therefore needed to go straight and take that power as dictated by the law and now exercise it directly because they can do so. Number 3, Sam.
I noticed that you leave Honorable Mbui from
because Honorable Mbui never voted yes for the Finance Act. I'm aware about that. But because he's in our coalition party. He never voted yes. I'm referring to Osoro, I'll keep referring to him in so many instances because, he's my neighbor at home. And also, I've seen a lot of people, his constituents, fighting him. So, Osoro, there's nothing malicious about it. But Sam, why is it that Saba Saba was important? It was important because, when you recall, the colonialists told the people that colonialization was legal, even though it was immoral. They told the people that they had to be colonized. And the slave traders in the past told the people that slavery was legal. But now we are having a new form of colonization and slavery, where the people must sit and be told that you must take this, you like it, don't like it. Honorable Soro, my good friend sitting next to me here, told the people of Kenya, on a live TV, that the government never loses. He told the people that they will pass the finance bill into act. They did it. They did it. Today, the effects of that is just about to be tested. When the court, Sam, and this is why the people went out, suspended the implementation of this act, they defied it. And EPRA went out and increased the fuel cost through that VAT. Today, the people are saying we're in a regime where the court orders are not important. We're in a regime where public representation is not important. We're in a regime where everyone is for himself. And that's why Azimio and the people of Kenya, particularly the civil society, who organized themselves and said, wait a minute, why are we going those dangerous paths? Can we organize ourselves and get our voices out heard? That is what happened in Kadhiani, Machakos, Murang'a, you saw Nyahururu, Homa Bay, Nairobi. Unfortunately, we have seen instances where the police used excessive force. And Osoro, I like him today because he says he agrees a lot with what we are saying. He has said that, there were elements that take advantage of peaceful demonstrations to do criminal activities. It is the duty of the police, Sam, and Osoro here knows that the police must protect public property and life. Where were the police when the criminals they claim to have been looting were looting? I was in the demonstrations. When we came from Kamkunji, somewhere in Mudurwa, we passed shops. Guys were walking peacefully. People were even buying water. No one looted anything. But I saw the provocation by the police when they threw tear gas, stopping a peaceful march towards a direction. That was unfortunate. And I want to condemn...
Where were you headed?
I want to condemn, in the strongest terms possible, Sam.
Where was he headed?
Yes, that's a good
The people who took advantage, the criminals who took advantage of that to loot. That was unfortunate. We were heading to town, CBD.
Fred, I wanted you to answer that because I need to introduce Honorable Deputy Speaker Gladys Boss, who's
as he introduced
joined us.
Boss, we're headed to the CBD.
Karibu sana, Honorable Deputy Speaker. So you're saying you're headed to the CBD. Which particular location?
If you recall...
No, just answer the question.
No. I want to bring this to perspective. It's my case. I'm prosecuting it. When Raila
He has prosecuted it for too long.
No. You've just gotten in. So relax.
I've been watching you.
When Raila Odinga, when our coalition leader, Raila Odinga, finished the launch of the digital signature at Kamkunji, he told the people that because this is a legal meeting and you have a right to picket and protest peacefully. In fact, he said we abhor violence and let's do this peacefully. He told the people, let's start the march from Kamkunji and walk towards the city park.
To do what?
So, it's a procession.
So fine.
To do what?
Fine, city park is fine. But did you have police notification done?
Of course, that was done.
No.
When?
It was done. The police were notified.
That you're going to can I say process, to the city park. Did you do that?
You see, Sam.
You didn't.
No. Just hold on.
Permission.
No, it's honorable, sorrow.
You don't need a permission, as Mbui says.
Not
but
the
we
permission.
notified the authorities.
That's what I'm asking. The notification.
That we shall be going to Kamkunji, and from Kamkunji we shall be proceeding towards different directions because it was not only city park.
So did you say in the notification that you would end up at the Central Park?
Yes, we did.
Okay, it's your word. Honorable Deputy Speaker, what do you make of what has happened over the past weekend, especially when you look at the force the police have used against these demonstrators?
Can it be the other way around?
What do you mean?
Okay, let me just say, first of all, I must apologize. In 10 years, I've never been late. I was late today because there were other things that were beyond my control. But now that I'm here and I arrived listening to my friend here explaining why they were demonstrating coming into the CBD, the question I should be asking, his life is very easy. You can just demonstrate and say life is difficult in Kenya. The question I should ask him, after your demonstration, today as we speak, how has life eased for Kenyans? No. Can you explain to me?
You want me to answer?
No. You will answer me in 2 minutes.
Thank you.
So, allow me to ask him the question. So you demonstrated. So how did the cost of living come down after you demonstrated yesterday? Has it eased today? The answer is no.
The answer is yes, and I'll explain.
No. First of all, people closed their shops. People did not go to work. Children did not go to school. Life became difficult. So how did you help us? So what you're doing is just playing to the public gallery. You have not been able to do anything to help Kenyans. Let me tell you, you have Azimio has members of parliament in parliament. What interventions do they give? Because what you should do is say, this is what the finance bill says. Give us an alternative to that finance bill. Tell us, section this is not, clause this is not good for us. This is what we should do to change. You have not given, I want you to give me a clause by clause alternative to the finance bill. Give it to me. In fact, I should credit your friend here. He was in parliament. Honorable Mbui was in parliament. He objected to certain clauses, and you actually gave us proposals. Some of the proposals you suggested were actually approved. Lakini wewe, where are your alternative proposals? Can you give me your alternative proposals? No, and do not speak to the gallery. Just tell me clause 1 says this, and my proposal is clause this.
Honorable boss,
only that.
You know very well that the people of Kenya, first of all, I don't sit in parliament.
No, but give me your, but don't come and talk here.
Number 2,
give me a proposal.
Just hold on.
Just do what Honorable Mbui did.
I think
you
that's
know very well.
challenge.
You have said that we have members in parliament. But you know very well, your colleague sitting next to me here did tell the public that they actually bought the members of public. They
No,
just that's your words.
Putting my words.
He said
Just hold it.
that they used...
Forget what Osoro said. I have asked you a question.
You and him and your other team use
But I've said
orthodox
forget what
means,
Osoro said.
I will not forget.
I have asked you.
I will not forget that.
Honorable
You
Boss.
did say that. Boss, I will not forget that because
Honorable Osoro,
the
please
member
allow
of
Fred to
parliament
make
in
his
the National
response.
Assembly
I'll give an
represent
opportunity.
the
You're here.
interest of the people. And if my member in the National Assembly cannot represent my interest because Osoro and the team have bought him or her, I have to come
Honorable
out. In any
Bui
case,
represented
just hold on,
the-
boss. I gave you a time.
Honorable Boss.
Number two, the people of Kenya are not protesting because you forcefully passed the finance bill into an act. No, that's not the only reason. The other reason are that
Get
this
elected,
is
then
a
come.
company that you have told us Kenya is a company. We are a republic.
Okay.
You have also told us that you'll have your way, whether we like it or not. We have said, because we are helpless as the people of Kenya, we delegated power to you, boss, and Osoro. You failed. We must recollect this power back to us and exercise it directly. So let's not go into the details of finance act.
Okay,
We have passed
okay.
it. For now, what we're interested in, how do we move forward? And we have said, because you have failed, boss, and Osoro and the team, in our view as the public, we have to look at the alternative. What are the constitutional alternatives that will allow us to exercise our rights? That takes us to Article 1. And you know that, boss.
Okay, we'll get to the specifics of that. But Osoro, now that this issue has been raised by Fred here, I was hoping to raise it towards the end, but it's here with us because there's that clip that has been circulating of yourself speaking in your local language to, I believe it was a UDA meeting, and you're saying that there are things you did, that you sent some Azimio members abroad, and that is why your numbers rose. Others pretended to be hospitalized because you gave them soup. Before ifike bunge ushaona because wewe ndio unaandika.
Now, let me first say, I do not know where I should actually be speaking from, because members of the public must know that my position is to push government business in the House. And that is my responsibility to start with. That I have to make sure that I pass anything that comes through from government side. That is why I'm called the government chief whip. And really, I do not know what explanation I need to make as far as
I'm asking
my operation is
to those
concerned.
words.
But let me say, the very first story was written by your sister media house, the Nation Media Group, on paper. And they say that, you know, government spent a lot of money. You've actually read it yourself in the translation that somebody has given you, that we took soup. I do not know how soup is a synonym of the word money.
So what did you mean?
What I meant is very simple. I actually said, and I'll repeat it here, that even before the bill was brought in the House, I had said that government will not lose. And I was certain on that. Because number one, I know the numbers that I have in the House as compared to Honorable Mbui's side. So, and I know I had convinced my members to vote in support of the Finance Act because I believe in it. I mean, this is the government that I participated in making. And really, I cannot go against it. It's that everything that comes from government, I must support it because I believe in it. So what I meant is very simple, that we actually stayed in the House. By the way, members of Parliament worked so hard. We worked until 12 a.m. And at some point midway, we would walk out, of course, of course, Azimio left. They went to midway. Of course, they went to the catering side, you know, the mess. And they, because of course we had stayed for some time. Because we had stayed for some time, and of course people were getting fatigued, they took some soup from the catering side at, you know, the mess, and then some of them left. So how that is related to money, I do not know.
You paid for or what?
Sorry?
They took soup that you paid for, or what do you mean?
You know, Parliament is a club. It's more or less like a club.
No,
if I meet,
Honorable,
hold on. No. I'm explaining myself.
I am asking
when I sit with Honorable
what you
Bui,
meant with the words that you gave them soup, that you sponsored some of them to go abroad.
But let me ask you. Every member of Parliament has money. Really, those are your words.
So what did you have to say?
Those are your words.
You know,
those are your words. My words are very simple.
That
because we overstayed in Parliament until about 12 a.m. or so, 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 midway we could get out and have some soup together, and whoever is present could pay. And at some point I paid, so it's normal.
So you paid for the soup.
Yes,
but
sometimes it's normal. Chicken soup.
How about the Azimio MPs that some feigned sickness, some traveled out of the country?
I don't know, because that should be the explanation from the Azimio side. Because for me,
that's what you said.
Their numbers. They've been telling you that they have numbers. But there are only 70 in the House.
So that is not what I'm asking. You told your supporters that you made some of them travel abroad.
In simple terms, whatever strategy I employed as far as working for to push government business is concerned, that is me. And we should all
explain that.
We should all live that way.
Just hold on. Are you saying here that actually you caused members of Azimio to travel to the country?
No, but members of parliament travel every time. It was unfortunate that within that system, within that time, there are some members of Azimio that had to travel. In fact, there are several members that travel out of the country. And
did you cause their travel?
No, I don't pay for their travel.
I have a very good explanation. I was supposed to travel.
I'll give you an opportunity.
Because this is a structure.
How many traveled because of influence?
I don't think how many you should have been asking. You should ask me how many failed to travel because of my influence. Because there are several who failed to travel because of my influence. I actually wrote a letter to the clerk of the National Assembly and told him not to allow any member of the, because there is a schedule of travel by members of parliament anytime we are in parliament, and it's given from the onset by the time we get into parliament. Members knew that they would travel within a certain period of time. And when I checked my list, I realized that my members of the Kenya Kwanza are set to travel when we are supposed to vote. So I wrote a letter to the clerk and I told him, because that is the work of the whip, I said, because I need my members in the House, all the Kenya Kwanza members should not travel. And that leave was granted. They didn't travel. What did it mean? It meant that the members of the Azimio traveled. They decided to travel and they reduced their numbers. So at least that one explains your point. And you know, like Honorable Shole was actually meant to travel, but she didn't.
Honorable Mboye, tell me, because you are part of the leadership of the Azimio side, what happened to your members?
First and foremost, Sam, allow me to just confirm, and you know, Kenyans are watching us. They can hear the lies from Kenya Kwanza leaders, led by none other than the whip himself. When he says that he demonstrated that Azimio has no members and there are only 70. Those were his words, you know. I want to quote what he has said on this show, that there are only 70 members of Azimio. Yet he himself says that there are many who traveled, and even the vote on the floor, we reached, I think, 80 something. So you know, these kind of lies have to stop. And you know what? When he talks about the issue of the soup, I mean, let's just be realistic. It was not literal. This was a kind of a parable. That is what the implication was different. I mean, Jesus taught the gospel with parables.
I'm not Jesus.
The whole of the Bible. And I know you're a Christian, so you know these things. So when you talk and tell people that, you know, I gave those people some soup, we all know what it means. I mean, if you talked to a Kenyan and say the police want tea, what does that mean? Does it mean they want to come and have a little cup of tea in your house? It means that they're asking for a bribe. So the word soup, the word tea, all those mean a bribe. And unfortunately, you've confirmed that these people, some of our members, I don't know any myself, but you have told Kenyans that you bribed some of our members. That means that, in fact, in the passage of this bill, there was a lot of twisting. When you're telling members who are scheduled to fly out, some of them maybe to hospital, that they shouldn't travel. You've written a letter and said none of my members should leave the country. I mean, so there's coercion, arm twisting, and bribery. That means already the premise upon which this bill was passed was already wrong. And not to forget that even none other than the Speaker himself said at some point within the conversation, the House was getting unruly. So you can't also be able to take a vote when the House is rowdy. But over and above that, let me just confirm that during the vote on the finance bill, not a single member of Azimio walked out in protest. We stayed put because we realized every time we walk out, they take advantage and they'll pass. So we said, we will be there even if we lose. We will lose, but we'll be there fighting. The time we walked out was not during the finance bill. It was actually when the CS for Treasury came to read the budget. That is when we thought we don't have to hang around and listen.
Oh, okay. I know, Honorable Boss, you have a pending response. I'll give an opportunity when you come back from a break. We're still talking about the political battle lines that are being drawn, but also next we also speak about the 1 million signatures. What does that mean? What is its place in law? Not 1, but 10. After the break.